Hello, BookTube. I went back to the Brattle Bookshop on this Monday here in Boston. It was slightly warmer, still freezing cold, but slightly warmer. And I ended up unexpectedly when I was out and about. I ended up unexpectedly with a little window of time. And there's no better way to spend a window of time than at the Brattle Bookshop because there's enormous stock turnover and surprises literally on every visit, even if you go every day. I know that that's not hyperbole because I once went every day for a long time, and you see something new every single time. And also, in my case, and probably in your case as well, it isn't just the stock that can change. It's also your demands on the stock can change. I've had this happen to me endless times where I go to the Brattle, I get a small armload of books, I look at a whole bunch of things that don't intrigue me at all, and then I read a reappraisal of some book or some author in Harper's or the Atlantic or the New York Times, and suddenly think, oh, those are interesting viewpoints. I might like to re-examine that author myself. I go to my shelf, there isn't any. And I remember that I saw it at the Brattle. So I will go, and so what I'm saying is that the sale, the bargain carts, which is where I do most of my shopping at the Brattle, can yield treasures that without changing their stock at all, although their stock changes all the time. So I got a bunch of books. I want to show them to you. A lot of these books underscore a quality of used book buying that I tend to go for nowadays. It's rare that I will go to a used bookstore or a charity shop or the Brattle or whatever, wanting to find a genuine keeper. One of the amazing things about the last Brattle bookshop haul that I did was the number of keepers among the books that I got. A couple of you who have been watching me for a long time, one of you who knows me really well in real life, pointed that out. I had not made that point in the video. That boy, it's not just that was a good book haul, it's that a lot of those books are going right here into this room. That's, of course, a goal. You, of course, want that to be true. But one of the elements of used book shopping that I tend to go for is the opposite of that. I tend to, since I'm always using store credit or shopping at places where books are extremely cheap or free, I tend to use these used book venues as kind of the library, where only a little bit more cumbersome and a little bit more isolated, so that I will get books just on a whim if I haven't read them, but I'm distantly interested, or if I've read them a long time ago and I want to reassess them, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to like them, off the charts. Then I will indulge because it's no outlay of money, and I can always just recycle them back into the wild once the time has come. That leads to a lot of pleasant surprises, and a lot of disappointments. And I'm sure I'm going to encounter both in this little pile. But the first one, I don't know. The first one, I don't think it's going to be a systematic reassessment of this author. I really don't. He's very talented, but I think he's very much of his time. I think he is dated poorly. We'll see, because this is the first book of his that I will have read in 35 years. This is Consenting Adults, or The Duchess Will Be Furious, by Peter DeVries, who is, on his author photo on the back cover, he is doing something that digital natives will not know what that is. They won't know what he's doing. They might be able to make out the word phone, but they won't be able to find a phone in this picture. And they won't understand, well, okay, what if it's raining? What if it's snowing? What is that inside? Is he against a backdrop? What is that? And if you were to show them something that went the full way down and that did not have a punch key, that had a rotary key, oh my God. But anyway, this is a 1980, I think. This is let me see here. 1980, yes. This is a 1980 sexual romp, a novel about a guy named Ted Peachum who has endless love affairs. The whole book is about all of the different kinds of outre and colorful love affairs that he can have. And it's all very priapic, and it's all very naughty in the kind of Bridgehampton John Updike style of naughty that for me has always gotten old very fast. I'm not averse to naughty in fiction. Aside from perhaps Adam Montemori, you will hardly find a bigger fan of Dennis Cooper anywhere on BookTube than me. What I do lose patience with is this kind of neo-Victorian fussiness. And the only thing that saved it, the reason that I made even the slight gamble that this is, was that Peter DeVries is a better wordsmith than any of the other writers from the 70s that did this sort of stuff. And I do genuinely love some of his books. So I did this. This wasn't one of them. This one struck me when I read it back in 1980 as being a bit of a clever britches of straining. The thing that will always kill humor is strain. Any sign of strain, it must look light. It must look effortless. And if I remember, my reading memory of this book is that the humor never seems effortless, unlike a lot of Peter DeVries' other books. So I'll give it a try. It's literally nothing ventured, nothing gained. The only strain, the only outlay on this book, aside from the time to reread it, was the physical manual labor of getting it back here. And I'm 28 years old, so I was able to shrug that off. Tra-la-la. Now, this next one is also fiction. It is also a reread, and it's something that I was hoping I would find. It's a perfect example of my motto that the Brattle will provide. I go to lots of used bookstores. I never miss a chance to go anywhere where there are used books or charity shops or whatnot. And their stock changes too. You never know what you're going to find, but the Brattle has such intense buying and overturn of stock that I've just taken in the last 50 years of saying the Brattle will provide. If I encountered something and it sticks in my memory or it comes back in my memory, I'm reminded of it by something or other and I want to try it again and I don't have it, I don't feel a panic. And more importantly, oh my God, in terms of BookTube and overspending, oh my God, I do not go to Book Depository or Amazon and spend money on a whim that is here today and gone tomorrow. No. Instead, I just file it away. The Brattle will provide. If the whim is still on me in a year, probably I will encounter the book in a year. Now, this thing is something that I encountered when it came out. And I read it, I gobbled it up, and I remember being not all that impressed. So I'm going to give it another try. This is Burton Raffles' translation of LaRues, of The Red and the Black by Stendhal. Stendhal's one of my favorite modern authors. And I remember being struck by this. This is a modern library hardcover when it originally came out like this. I remember being struck by the cover. Talk about Dennis Cooper. I have no idea what that cover has to do with the red and the black, the scarlet and the red and the black. I have no idea what that cover means. It is totally divorced from the contents of the book. And it reminded me when I originally saw it when it came out. This is, I think, 1980 as well. Good on, 2003. 20 years later. This was when this came out in 2003. I remember thinking that it reminded me of a recent reissue of the play The Lion in Winter. If you look up The Lion in Winter on Amazon, more than likely the cover that you will see is the one I'm talking about. It might be designed by the same person. Also has nothing to do with the play. Nothing whatsoever. It's just sensual. For sensuality's sake. But the thing, and that's not, I didn't care one way or another about that, although it is fairly striking. The thing that bothered me about this, Burton Raffles, a lot of you will know that name because he made a mint with his translation of Beowulf. His was the translation of Beowulf before Seamus Heaney. And I don't know, I always thought his translation of Beowulf was solid and even had an arch good ear in a couple of places. And Stendhal, of course, is a completely different kettle of fish. So I guess I knew that. I guess I shouldn't have been so surprised. But a lot of this struck me as a little tone deaf. And I'm wondering if that was partially my fault. So I'm going to give this another try. I don't need usually much encouragement to reread Stendhal, but now I have it. And I also have this edition, which I confess, just for oddity's sake, I don't usually care about what books look like, but for oddity's sake, this is quite a cover of The Red and the Black to have. Then this next one is a BookTube favorite. I just saw it. I forget where. I just saw it on somebody's channel just the other day, so it was on my mind. And I saw it on her channel. I don't remember where it was. I'll try to remember. If I remember, I'll leave it in the link. Or you might remember, since you probably watch a lot of BookTube as well. Somebody just talked about this book, and it made me think, oh, well, it's been 10 years at least since I read that. I should maybe think about putting it on a schedule for 2019. And it didn't have it, of course. So I just put it in my mind that the Brattle will turn up a copy, and it was there. So I got Instance of the Finger Post by Iain Pears. This is his huge 4-part historical murder mystery. An Oxford Don has been poisoned to death, and there's an elaborate game going on here in this huge book of multiple personalities, multiple viewpoints, multiple unreliable narrators. It's actually a virtuoso performance. Critics praised it to the skies. And this was from 1998, and it would have been exactly the kind of thing that I would have been beating down the doors of my editors to let me write about. So now I have a copy, and it was I think $1. So it's not putting me out any. Then this next one is a fascinating subject, but that's not the reason that I got it. It fills a hole too. I didn't have this. I read it, but only from the library when it first came out, which was, I guess I'll do this with every book. When did this first come out? 2007. So right before I got back into the reviewing game, and would have noticed it and requested it on my own. This is 3 Empires on the Nile by Dominic Greene. And this is a case where, I mean, this is his narrative history of the British Empire under Queen Victoria confronting the Caliphate in Africa. This is his story of Khartoum and Gordon and the Mahdi. A fascinating, fantastic story that hasn't had a modern narrative until this one. And this is just a fantastic book. But the reason that I got it isn't that. I mean, the subject is fascinating, but I got it because of the author. The author is a really, really good writer. He is well worth your time to find and read. This is long. Won't take me long to reread. I haven't read it since 2007. And it's amazing for me to think. When I read this in 2007, I remember all the kinds of things that I was thinking about. And I was so far from my reviewing past then that the idea of what kind of a review tack I would take on it never occurred to me when I was reading it. I took notes on the original copy that I had. I checked, and this is not it. But they weren't reviewer notes. Oh, actually, no, this wouldn't be it, would it? Since I took notes in a library version. But none of you want to hear that. That's apparently a big no-no in BookTube land. Sorry, BookTube. I read with a pencil in hand. I'm going to have to hope that some of my quips and questions and comments in the margins of whatever library I took this from will help future readers. They're all in pencil. They're all legible. They're not covering the page. But one way or another, it's fascinating for me to remember that when I was taking those notes and when I was reading this, I was not thinking in the way of a reviewer at all. And it was right around the corner. It was right in my immediate future, and I didn't know it. That's weird. So I will read this again, and I will be reading it effectively with a different set of eyes. And then this next one I did review, and you're going to find that a little hard to believe. This is by Robert Weintraub, and it's The House That Ruth Built. It's a fantastic history of the building and early years of Yankee Stadium and the rise of Babe Ruth to the second rung of his superstardom. He was already a star when Yankee Stadium was being built, and he was starting to wonder if his powers were on the wane. And then he was installed in Yankee Stadium and became a legend. And the house became a legend as well. The stadium became a legend as well. And this is just a fantastic story. All the characters, all of the quips, all the quotes, all the research done just beautifully. And I did review it for an audience. It's the weirdest thing. This came out, this can't have been much later. 2011. This came out in 2011, and I reviewed it, I think, for the National in Abu Dhabi, on the other side of the world, where baseball has never been played. I think my editor probably just had a sweet spot for this particular subject. But it was a blast. just as long as we're talking about reviewer speak here, I read Three Empires on the Nile as a quote-unquote civilian. I read it without thinking about reviewing it, knowing in my mind that I would never review it, even though that was the very last time that I was ever going to know that. I'm never going to give this up again. No matter what else I do with my time, I'm never going to give this up again. It's just too much fun to be in the conversation. But this was also a reviewer challenge, because by 2011, I was reading everything in the reviewer's mind frame. Everything. So you're taking notes, you're remembering proper names, you're thinking about angles and what the author's doing right and what the author's doing wrong. You're not just concentrating on whether or not you're enjoying it. You're critically assessing it. You're praising it. And you're thinking about an audience. Although in 2007, when Three Empires on the Nile came out, I did not have an audience. It's a thing that as a reviewer, I treasure perhaps more than some of my reviewing brethren do. A lot of them treasure their editors. A lot of them treasure their paycheck. But they don't, a lot of them, I get the impression, especially the young members of my profession, don't really know their audience and don't have a sense of who they're writing for. And I think that's a great shame. That is the last thing that I would sacrifice out of the whole thing. That's another subject. That's an author tube video that I've been meaning to get to about audiences. I'll do that maybe tomorrow. But the challenge here wasn't shifting to a reviewer's mind point. The challenge here was knowing that I would be reviewing in foreign territory. I don't know sports at all. I know baseball perhaps better than I typically joke, but still I don't know it well enough to review this thing authoritatively, and I knew that when I went into it. I went into this book knowing that I had a commission in hand to review it. So I had to do a huge amount of work just to break even. I didn't just have to critically assess the book. I had to read an enormous amount more just to break even so that I wouldn't embarrass my editor or my publication with the results. And I'll leave a link down below. You can tell me if you think I succeeded. But I highly recommend the book. I was delighted to find it again. I got it and got rid of it. And now I have a copy again that I can just hold on to. Then this next one looks like it was once a library book. It still has the call numbers and the date on it and whatnot. I'll have to de-access it. But this came out in 2011, I think. Was this 2011? No, 2014. It's by Kathryn Miles, and it's Superstorm. This is a definitive narrative history of Hurricane Sandy, which was more than a hurricane. As the author says at one point, let's see here. Let's see if I can find it here. Yes, on average, about 6 hurricanes develop each year. Fewer than 2 of them strike the United States. Major storms with winds greater than 100 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, occur even less frequently. 1 every 18 months, give or take. The chance that one of those storms will strike New York City is 3.2%. None of these statistics mattered at all with Superstorm Sandy. There was no precedent, no authoritative model or soothing data to help make sense of what was happening. The world had simply never witnessed a storm like this one. And this tells the whole story. She does it in a fantastic way. So the short opening chapter is a supercharged, dramatic account of the storm when it strikes. And then we get the buildup. And that's a beautiful technique if you can do it well, and she does, is to give you a taste of the payoff, of the dramatic payoff, and then build slowly to it, so that you get a sense of what's coming. And this has all of the science, all of the personality, all of the stories, a huge amount of work for an incredibly tragic subject. But tragedies have their books too, and I remember reading this and loving it when it came out, and so I was very happy to find it again. I will read it again. And see, because the environmental world that we live in now, the environment, a lot of you who are young, the environmental world that you are going to grow up in, that you are going to grow old in, is a world in which those numbers are common, in which superstorms like Hurricane Sandy are common. That's absolutely unavoidable as the ocean warms and fills with water, as heat convection currents all over the world become more pronounced and more long-lasting, storms like this feed on heat. So that is just going to happen. They not only feed on heat, but they feed on atmospheric moisture. So if you've got super warm water in the ocean, they're going to feed on that. They're going to slow down. They're going to get bigger. They're going to churn when they hit the land bridge. It's I think superstorms are probably in our future. And this is a harbinger of all that. And I also remember really liking it. And I'm racking my brains. I didn't check before I made this video. But I think Kathryn Miles has gone on to do something else that I really liked. I'll have to check and see. But this, I remember reading it and loving it. And I saw it today and thought it was a perfect example. These are perfect examples of things where I remember liking them. I want to reread them. And I don't really know whether or not I will keep them. Whether or not they'll graduate to that level of liking it on much later estimation. I don't really know, and I'm not hugely out of pocket or on time or effort if it turns out they aren't. I'll just release them back into the wild. That was kind of the expeditionary nature of today's shopping. There wasn't quite so many Steve keepers. And then the last one is a bit of a find. I was very happy to see it. It's my own profession. It's James Walcott of Vanity Fair. This is Critical Mass, a gigantic collection of pieces that he's done for that magazine, a bunch of other magazines, all broken up. He talks about TV, he talks about movies, talks about other critics, talks about books, talks a lot about books. And there's a wonderful moment. If I remember correctly, this came out, again, we'll check this. This came out in 2013. And if I remember correctly, it starts with a little vignette that he introduces the whole thing by picturing him sitting on the floor on a carpet, surrounded by heaps of graying and moldering newspaper clippings, his own clippings, and looking all around it. I wonder if it's right in the beginning. I can read you, because when this author is on, he's really on. Yeah, okay. Allow me to set the scene the way fiction writers used to do before they all went meta-conceptual and self-annotating. Picture the screened-in back porch of a yellow bungalow on the southern tip of the Jersey Shore, a small parish of mourning doves making their stately way across the scrabbly lawn, pecking at fallen seeds from the bird feeder while squirrels conduct their own food-gathering choreography. It is late autumn, not long after Hurricane Sandy paid a tumultuous call, making landfall a few miles northeast, upheaving many of the resort towns. Here I sit cross-legged on a zigzag rug, but not in meditation. Arrayed around me like a drum kit are stacks of gray, dark-streaked clips of nearly every review, essay, and article I've written over 4 decades. If I were ever inclined to ask the question, where did my life go? I'd be able to say with a sweep of my hand, this is where it went. That's going to strike a lot of you as horrifying, but that's my life. It's his life. It's the life of a whole bunch of people I know. I don't know that I would advise it. I don't know that I would recommend it for the rest of you. But some of us, yes, absolutely. You look around. I don't keep all of my reviews, but you look around, you say, yeah, there you go. That's what I did with my life. And if you're lucky, you get a book like this that collects a lot of them. I think that everybody should have one. And of course, keep in mind, I will have one myself in 2018. In 2019, I'll be making an ebook of my 2018 reviews. I will not be doing 40 years of reviews. Even an ebook wouldn't be big enough. But I'll do one for 2018 with an annotated collection of reviews broken down by rough genre and subject matter, much like this book. It'll be electronic, so I don't know. It'll never give anybody the pleasure of holding it in their hand when they find it used in a bookstore. But it might provide reading enjoyment for people. We shall see. It'll at least be out there. So there you go. That was another brattle trip that I made. Just a little more brattle therapy. I think that's pretty much all I need. I got James Walcott's collection, Critical Mass. Fantastic. I've been kind of sort of wanting it and just haven't seen it. And then Superstorm by Kathryn Miles. You can see the library sticker on there. The House That Ruth Built, about the renaissance of Babe Ruth at Yankee Stadium. Babe Ruth, who was sold away from the Boston Red Sox for the price of a Broadway flop and hit tune, No, No, Nanette. thereby cursed the Boston Red Sox to a century out of the World Series. And like all long-standing and violent curses, it required the sacrifice of an innocent young life. Once that actually happened at Fenway, the curse was broken. Horrible way to do it, but nevertheless, Red Sox Nation not only honors the name of Babe Ruth, even though he left the team, we also honor the name of Victoria Snellgrove, because the curse was lifted. And the Red Sox went on to win the World Series. That won't be in this book. This will all be in enemy territory. It'll all be with the hated Yankees. And then Three Empires on the Nile, about the Mahdi, Messianic Islamic cult leader and military genius. A great, great story, and told wonderfully here. So if this is at your library or you see it at a used bookstore, even if it's not this book, that name, Dominic Greene, can't really go wrong. He really won't do a bad job. He's got a brief and he's got pages in front of him. He's really not going to dog it at all. He's just one of those writers. That's kind of nice. And then An Instance of the Finger Post, well-known, often possessed, often bought, seldom read all the way through historical novels. So huge. The rather hyperventilating Boston critic called it probably the best historical murder mystery that's ever been written. And I don't know that that's true. I think Daughter of Time would give it quite a run for its money. But I know what the author was saying. It's the greatest thing, certainly, that this author has ever done or ever will do. And it is lastingly memorable. There are some amazing scenes in there. I'm looking forward to rereading it. Then Le Rouge et Noir, Stendhal, with a sexy, sexy cover. No idea if that's meant to be our main character, our hero, or not. I don't think so. But Consenting Adults, or The Duchess Will Be Furious, by Peter DeVries, who is now forgotten, and perhaps justly so. I will report back. He may be just irretrievably dated, in which case I'll read this book, and then I'll know. I'll know... some of his books are stronger than others. Slouching Towards Kalamazoo is just terrific. He did a book that's the title is escaping me. It's about gone to see male writers in the off season in a winter at a winter colony. I don't think it's going to be in here. It might have come, no, it would have come out before or after this. Intensive Wickedness, Macroplaza, Covering with Animal. No. Okay, no, it's not on here because it came out later than this. I don't quite remember what its name was, but he's good. He's really good. I just don't remember him being really good in this book, but I'll give it a try, and we'll see. But as a little treat for those of you who managed to get through the tedium all this way to the end, I have a new package. Came right as I was setting things up here. So I figured rather than wait for more, we might as well just open it now and see what it is. This I did not get at the ground. This came straight to my doorstep. So let's see what we have here. This package will be one big book. Oh, it is. It's one big book. Oh my. Okay, this is the lovely finished copy of The Story of Britain by Roy Strong. Big, thick narrative, one-volume history of Britain from the very beginning to Brexit. That, those of you who do a lot of history reading will know that this sort of thing is fairly common. It's not a new idea to write a book like this. This comes out in early February. The reason that it makes my eyes sparkle a little is because in between when I got the advance copy and when I get this finished copy, I have been commissioned to review this. So I get to go on record with it, which is good. I will examine it in exactly the same way as I have described. I will go through here saying, okay, what kind of a story are you trying to tell? How different is it, or how similar is it to Trevelyan or Macaulay or Hume or any of the modern people who are doing it, Peter Ackroyd or Simon Schama? What kind of a story are you trying to tell here? What points are you trying to draw through? Is this, in fact, a Brexit book? Was it born and germinated through Brexit? All that sort of stuff. Absolutely fascinating. So, but I'm not going to add it to that pyramid because it belongs in a different place. It belongs not only with my new books, but with on the separate shelf over there for books that are currently under review, books that I'm actually working on. Not that I'm going to be working on somewhere later in the month or next month or the month after that, but the ones that are actually on the docket those have a shelf of their own, and they are constantly before my eyes. So there you go. That is a bookish email just to bore the pants off you. But I'll try to remember to leave links for anything that I actually reviewed down below. But anyway, it was a 30-minute video. Good Lord. I'll wrap this up. Thank you for your patience, Book 2. I'll see you soon.